All right, so I just want you to imagine for a second that you had 3 full-time people cold calling homeowners on your behalf 40 to 50 hours per week. And they were able to go in the marketplace and find homeowners who were thinking about listing and selling their property. What would happen to your business? Well, good news. In this video, I'm going to share a clip of a conversation that I had with an agent who I was coaching at a private mastermind event that I hold for all my coaching clients once a year. This agent's now on my team, by the way. And at the event, he broke down his entire system, his entire process for how he hired these 3 cold callers to go out into his market and start generating 100 plus listing leads per month. And he's going to talk about exactly how he did it and what happened to his business as a result. Because I get this question from you guys all too often is, hey, when I go to look to invest dollars into my business, where should it go? I honestly believe that the first thing you should do first is have some leverage on the administrative side of the business, okay? Get some administrative leverage so that you can focus more on lead generation. But the second thing after that should be into some leveraged lead generation. Leveraged lead generation, what I mean by that specifically is getting somebody to make phone calls for you. So I'm joined by 2 guys up here. Some of you, all of you probably know Ben. Some of you know Gus. I'm going to have him introduce himself in just a second. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about the best practices when you guys are ready to start bringing ISAs into your business to have them start to prospect for you in addition to the prospecting that you're doing, right? It's not, well, let me just write a check to this MFer and I'll just sit back and, watch the news. No, it's in addition to the lead generation that you're also doing. So real quick, just quick introduction, Ben, who you are, what's happening in your life, because there's a lot, and then Gus will go to you.
Ben, I've been in real estate for 5 years or so. Kind of my niche has been absentees. That's all I focus on. I'm 30 years old. I just had triplets. They're 12 weeks old. And then I've got a 2-year-old. So I've got 4 kids under 2.5. So it's just wild right now. So leverage is very important.
Well, and by the way, you're going to you're moving.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, just because family support and everything, I'm gonna change markets. So I'm gonna literally on Thursday of last week, I drove to our new destination from Minnesota to Virginia. So gonna be moving there and starting all over again in a small market, 100,000 people versus 4 million in Minnesota. So I'm excited to just apply the systems I've already got going in Charlottesville and just see how quick I can ramp it up.
And your production 2021, 2022, give the framework of that.
21, 22. So like 12 million, and then I'll do like between 16 million or so. And then a big portion of my life is spent on investment real estate. That's where I started. So it takes a ton of time, and I did, 6 or 7 flips this year, and then bought some more rentals and whatnot. So like the tax stuff, I geek out about. The cost seg changed my life.
That was your favorite part of the entire conference. Ben's like, don't stop. So you have some ISAs on your team. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. That's why we wanted you up here. Gus, take a second, introduce yourself to the group.
Hey there, folks. Gus Munoz, founder of Power ISA. We're a virtual ISA company. Been around since 2015. Have helped about 1,200 agents, loan officers, and investors with everything from outbound prospecting to even inbound, lead qualification and conversion. So that's what I do. I'm a former, high-tech guy, software guy from Microsoft, and that, from there all the way to real estate. It's a cool story. Check it out on my YouTube channel. So if you want to know about that. But yeah, got connected with Brandon. He was a client for about a couple years, and he said, "Hey, I think you guys have something good going." So we started talking, and I'm here now. So yeah,
I love it. All right, so let me stay with you, Gus, because I want you guys to understand, because the ISA conversation is it comes up all the time. I mean, a lot of you, right, brought it up to me at some point in time. What Gus and I used to do before, and what many of you have probably tried before, and there's nothing wrong with this model of outsourcing an ISA potentially to a company, but Gus, if you could take a second on explaining what it was that Power ISA did do, and now what the new model looks like, just so everybody understands what we're talking about when we start talking about Ben's business.
Yeah, definitely. So we had a previous model where you would hire Power ISA as a company, and we kind of touched on this with Joe and company. You hire a company and you kind of rent one of our folks, right? And that's a model that Brandon started on, the one that Ben started on, and you get one person to a certain price point. As the market started to shift, a year before the market started to shift, we said, hey, let's experiment with a new model, different model, that is a placement model, right? So instead of like renting a person from Power ISA or a company like us, we help you hire someone directly, okay? So, it sounds like a small detail. It's actually a big, big change. And the cost basis for you guys goes from $30,000 a year, which, I was happy to receive from Brandon, was not a bad deal, to a fraction of that, like $8,000 or $9,000 a year for you guys, direct cost. So,
Did you hear that? Say that one more time. So for a full time, how many hours are they working for you right now?
40.
40 hours per week. We're talking about 8,000 to 9,000 per year. And by the way, I'm not sure if this is for you or not. You can decide. But if you're a real estate agent, you're watching this video and you're not earning at least $100,000 per year, you feel like you're overworked, you're underpaid, maybe even underappreciated, perhaps it's time to talk. If you're serious about growing your real estate sales business and you're open to having a conversation to determine if working with me as your coach makes sense or not, then click the link in the description beneath this video, or simply go to reverseselling.com to book a call. Did you catch that? Okay, to have a full-time ISA.
30,000. So that was our old model. This is a new model. So, suffice it to say, it's very popular. People like it or enjoying it. Because, I think Ben started with one ISA. Now he has 3 on his team, right? So I think it's a winning model. It's a very big change for us, but we don't sell the other service anymore. We don't do it anymore.
Oh, is that right? I didn't even know that.
We cut it off in July. So
wow, okay.
We said this one is much more popular, and as the market shifts, people are doubling down. We had our biggest month of sales ever in August of this year. As the market is shifting, as the market is changing, because people gravitate towards value, right? When money's tight, right? So I'm thinking, hey, that's great. And even in this new model, we are the most expensive company out there because we're not good for everybody. Not a good fit for everyone out there.
I love it.
Right?
He learned some shit yesterday.
Absolutely. So shout out to Antonio. But yeah, that's who we are. That's where we position ourselves. And I feel we have the best product out there because we recruit out of Mexico. I'm born and raised in Mexico, and I think personally, right, a little biased here, that the best sales talent for the U.S. outside of the U.S. and outside of Canada, is Mexico in Latin America. I mean, I don't think it's close. Personal opinion. So I think we're the best, positioned to do that.
Well, I would agree, and I'm going to take 2 seconds to that point, and then Ben, I'm coming to you. Our ISA, if he was here right now, that Gus's team found for us, you would not even know that he lived in Mexico. You just wouldn't even know. I've had ISAs in other countries before, and maybe you guys have too. I've gotten a lot of feedback where their English is so broken. It's like, man. The prospect can't even understand what it is that they're saying, so the return on that's very low. So, Ben, I asked you to come on stage because you were on that old outsource model. Now you have 3 ISAs that work for you directly. So let's get into this a little bit. First off, what's the biggest difference between having somebody on your team versus hiring an ISA that's outsourced 100%?
Yeah, just having direct contact with them and being able to speak with them, train them, all that stuff directly.
Yeah.
And that comes with work, but you can mold them exactly how you want. Gus did a great job with the training and everything with the old model. However, every realtor sells different, and being able to kind of like have direct contact with them on a daily, moment by moment basis was game changer.
So let's talk about that. So you have 3 full-time ISAs. These are the questions probably you guys have. So if you guys have additional questions, we got to get Ben on a plane. So I'm going to kind of rush it. So if you have questions for Ben, let me know. But so you bring 3 people on the team. It's probably a lot of work to manage these people, right?
Yeah. So my idea was I worked with Gus, but I also worked with 2 companies before, and just it failed. And then with Gus, I was like, man, I'm excited about this. I know what you guys have to offer, and it was better. But as soon as I heard about this new model, I got really excited because the old model, other companies, whatever, they prospect. Your goal is just to get an inbound lead or appointment is what all these people promise you is we're just going to book listing appointments for you. And we just know that's not reality. Like for us to think that we can just pay some random person to book us appointments is just absurd. Like, we're not hiring Mitch to call for us. We're hiring somebody in a different country to call for us, and we think they're going to set $1 million listing appointment. So once you can get past that and understand what their job really is and what they're doing for you, I think that's the biggest realization. So with the new model, I said, okay, I've burned through a lot of ISAs because this is a really hard job. We've all called. We hate it. It's just something Let's
be honest.
Yeah, we just get better at it. We don't like it less, right? So, I don't know. Lance Armstrong said that,
yeah.
Right? So cycling isn't easier. I just get used to it.
That's right. So and I've talked to you about this, right? The ISAs that you have is truly a lead generation system.
Correct.
Talk through that system.
Yeah, so one quick thing is I said to Gus, okay, I don't have time to just keep training these people. I'm having triplets. I need to get this thing cranking. Can I hire 3 of these and maybe one will stick? So that's what I did is I hired 3 hoping one would stick. I created a system around it, and if somebody quits, I created like a workbook or whatever where I recorded every call, every training that I built so that I can give it to the next guy, just logged and easy. And then I've created a really cool community with these 3 guys that we all jump on a call every single day, and we review their calls from the day before because I record everything. And then it's moment by moment training. So what I want them to do, the only thing is go out and shake trees. I work with absentee owners. Most of them are investors. 2 to 4 units has been my kind of niche, and single family too. But I just want them to shake the tree, find somebody that is somewhat considering selling, and then for them to pass it on to me. So if we go into the numbers, if we call, contact to lead should be around 10%. In ISA, what you can expect, contact to lead is 5%. So 100 dials is 5 leads. And I've got 3 of them, so they're producing about 4 to 6 leads a day.
Whether you wake up or not.
Correct.
Now you're starting to form a real business.
Yeah, my phone's been buzzing the last 2 days with leads that I'm getting when I'm sitting here, so which is awesome. But then when we call, now instead of me making a contact to lead of 10%, now all the metrics stay the same. We just got the new updated metrics of lead conversion all the way through. The only thing that changes in my business is my contact to lead now, instead of 10, is 20. So nothing else changes. I'm just calling the people that they shook the tree and identified. That's my call list every day. So I'm still prospecting. I'm still calling. But now instead of 10% conversion, it's 20. And then everything else is skill level, and we all have our own data and numbers.
Yeah.
So that would apply to you.
Yeah, that's great. And so imagine a world for just a second that you have a business that he just outlined, which is you come in the morning, instead of Stephen calling the person for the first time, which one would argue is the most difficult one, right? They're not expecting your call, that you're calling on a list of people who, in fact, are expecting the call. And I've asked you guys all the question before. I don't think anybody in this room would have any issue calling a buyer or a seller who asked you to call. Is that fair? Say yes. We have the issue calling people who didn't ask us to call, okay? So that's the whole thing. So I want them to understand it's not easy, right? I mean, you're managing people now.
Totally.
In addition to managing yourself.
They're only as good as you train them.
So talk about that for just a second, then you got to get on the plane.
Yeah, so you put these guys on your script, you train them. So I spent 3 days straight, 5 hours a day just training, walking them through scripts, role playing, boom, 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 boom. This is the system. I created a system where my phone dings when they identify somebody. They send an email, they copy me on it, it comes to me. Those systems just don't you don't just give Gus your credit card and all your problems go away. If you do that, it's like throwing lighter fluid on a campfire with no kindling. It's just gonna the log is gonna maybe go up and then it's gone, right? So you gotta build your business first, add these on as logs to your fire, and then you're gonna really cook. But if you do this too soon and you don't have the systems or the knowledge or the willingness to call these people, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah. So 2 or 3 questions for Ben, then he's got to jump on a plane. Any questions about hiring ISAs? Yes, Pete, I think. Great question.
Yeah, so I every day I'm talking to them. So like every morning I go in and I do a Zoom call with them. And that's really cool because we have a team atmosphere. They're like, they love it. Like they're all in it together. And I pull up the calls from the day before. We start with the leads that they identified and we listen to them. Boom. Okay, Abe, what did you think of that call that George made? What did you think, Carlos? And we go through it and they tell me, and I'm like, is this really a lead, right? And it's kind of like what we talked about yesterday. Let them have that self-identification of, yeah, you know what, I kind of pushed for that one. So they're getting better and better every day, every training. They're only as good as we train them. So the more we help them understand what a lead really is through just self-evaluation, it gets better and better. So I go through there, and that's why it's like 20% conversion and not 100%, because not all those people are leads.
What are the qualifications? How have you trained the team on what a lead is for you and what it isn't, real quick? I think would help just to get the practical, what I think these guys are looking for.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to identify anybody that's open to the idea of selling for any reason. So the script starts by just asking them, like, hey, we had a buyer in this neighborhood, blah, 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 we've seen a lot of activity in this neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. Have you even considered it, in the next 6 to 12 months if you could get a great offer? Now, a lot of these people are renters, right? So they've like, hey, it's leased out. Hey, it's this. Hey, it's that, right? And they know the triggers, like if the property's vacant, like you better like blow up my phone and tell me that so I can send this guy a little video or introduce myself as quick as possible. But I'm just trying to find people that are open to the idea of selling. And then I book a Zoom call, I send them a CMA, and just get the conversation started. And this is, absentee is all funnel business. So like whether the lease is up in March, April, June, I don't care if it's in the next 12 months. And I'll drip them.
So real quick, question on how many of these are you able to contact? So if your team's getting, 5 a week, so 25 a week, 100 a month or something, how many of those are you having conversations with? Regardless of the outcome, how many are you able to touch base with?
Well, so I'm calling that list and I'm still seeing, like, it's speed, right? If I can get in front of them, so if my phone dings, I am really big on video. I just think it drops so many barriers and makes you real. So I will pull out my phone and say, hey, George, this is Ben. I see that you just talked to my sales associate, Abe. It sounds like you guys had a great conversation and booked a call for tomorrow afternoon. I look forward to talking with you. If you want to chat before then, give me a buzz, right? And I send that like a little text and then a video. And then if they get that and I can get in touch with them the next day, it just goes way up. So I'd say I'm talking like initial first phone call from the next lead. Maybe half of them pick up the next day. It's strong because they get an email, they get a calendar invite, they get a video text from me. So
that's great. All right, next question.
From the time that you started with this new system, how quickly were you seeing results? Like, do you feel like, not results, obviously getting an appointment or a call booked is a result, but like, did you see an increase in your profit? Like, as
listings
far as your
taken,
growth?
listings sold.
Yeah, so I've been doing this since January, and like you can anticipate probably a listing a month from it. And so I've been doing the 3 for 2 months now, and I have them focusing on a niche market for me right now. So I don't know if you can count that. Like, it's a market I know really well. It's where I invest. It's like there's a little pocket of student rentals around a specific college that I focus on. I've got $3.5 million under contract in that market right now in the last 60 days. But I would anticipate 1 listing a month after a 90-day ramp-up period.
That's right.
Per ISA.
And I think that's really, really important to call out because, it's not month 1, it's not week 1, right?
That's right.
You got to accumulate some people in that pipeline before you start seeing that big return. But it's one of those kinds of lead sources, lead generation activities that can have a 5 to 10x return. And this is the crazy part of it. The ISA costs the same in Minnesota as it does in Los Angeles, as it does in Myrtle Beach, as it does. So, just think about that, right? The cost is the same. It's $5 to $6 an hour, whether they're calling $800,000 listings, $100,000 listings, or $1 million.
That's a great point. Question back there.
Yeah, so this is maybe just a little bit more like on. What is your perspective on if they're not selling in regards to like getting their email, putting them in your database, forgetting about them, letting them drip, and how large is your database? The size of your database?
Like, how many people do I have in
Yeah,
my
with the-
database? I don't know. A lot. I
Like
mean,
1,000
I haven't
a
been in it
lot,
forever, but like, thousands, yeah.
Okay.
And I think the question, Joel, that you have, though, is if he finds that he has a lead that's not looking to do something, what is he doing with it?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's so.
Oh,
Like, do
So,
you try
yeah.
to get their email and just put them in your database?
you gonna stay in
or
touch,
just
you're
like
gonna
Yeah, I
delete them?
followed Brandon's system, so I just put them in there. If their lease is going to expire in the next 12 months, I follow up with them every month.
Cool. All right, one more, then Ben's got to get out of here.
Yes, I'd like to know what systems you use in training the ISA. Like you mentioned that you are recording the calls, and, these sort of things. You mentioned Zoom, but what other systems?
I don't know, a bunch of them, like whatever, screen recorders. There's a ton of them out there. BombBomb, VMO, or something.
Do you have on Mojo, though? Like, what prospecting platform?
Oh, so like they call in Mojo. Share Group gets all my data. They're awesome. So like they'll pull a list of absentees for me. You got 10,000 absentees in the Twin Cities or whatever, in the 9 metro area. So I import that to Mojo. They call Mojo.
Mojo's recording.
Mojo records all their calls. So like you're investing a lot of money in these tools. They're all on Follow Up Boss. So like when they're on Mojo, I get rid of all the buckets. The only bucket they can click is to add it to Follow Up Boss. And then Follow Up Boss, you can integrate it with your phone and all that stuff. So it pings me. And then I get the whole, like, their notes, the call recording, all that stuff in one. And then I have a form set up and then a tracker. So at the end of every day, they have to fill out the tracker on how much, like, whatever they did that day, and then put the leads' names in there. And then that goes to a spreadsheet where I can track the numbers, similar to what you guys have set up for sales coaching. But so they fill the form out, it goes to a tracker, and then that's what I review every night. I go in and listen to the calls of the leads. If I'm available right when it comes through, I jump in there and do that. But really, those are kind of the systems that I tied together.
And we're going to have more content. I mean, Gus and I we'll do more too on this entire process. Ben has been so nice to document the process, and I'm sure you'd be fine sharing more information as we move forward in the future. So,
Yeah, and we're just going to start this, after this week, inviting everyone that's, a
Oh,
client
yes, please.
into our weekly masterminds where we're talking about these exact topics: systems, training, dialers, tracking, all these things. Every week with other agents that have ISA teams. The biggest team we have right now, I think 6 ISAs. Most people have one. Got to start with one. One's the hardest, by the way.
that's right.
Start with
The
3.
first one is start with 3. So yeah, so starting with multiples is not a bad idea. But the hardest one is the first. The hardest one is the first, and then you get the system down. You understand what the process is, and you go, okay, great. Now we can scale it up. And you got to start like Ben. You have to have a system that works, guys. You can't get the ISA in there and let's see what happens, right? You got to plug them in to a lead source, some awesome data, like talk to Jared, and a good system that you can scale up. You don't want the ISA there, burning money, hoping that you can kind of find something that'll work for them. If you want to hit a home run, like Ben's hitting home runs, I mean, he's the Aaron Judge of the real estate world, but because he has a system, right? And he added leverage to that system, and that's what you can take off.
And you guys have a say in who you hire. That's the other great thing about the model.
You pick. Yeah.
You pick. You get to pick. So if you guys have questions about hiring a full-time ISA for $5 or $6 an hour, see Gus. He'll be back. You're going to hang out for a little bit. Ben's got to get on a plane. Let's give him a huge round of applause. Ben, thank you so much. Yeah. I'm going to have Jared from the Share Group join me on stage. Gus, appreciate you guys. If you guys have any questions, head back there and talk to Gus about ISAs. No problem. All right. So now, talking about niching down. Hello, Mr. Jared. Good to see you. Yesterday we talked a lot about niching down. We just talked about how Ben is specializing in a certain area of business. Jared and I have been, messing around in business for a long time. He's where we get a lot of our niche type data. And so we wanted to just take 5 or 10 minutes, really talk about what Antonio was talking about yesterday. When we were talking about niching down, in my head, I'm like, shit, you guys are just thinking about FSBOs and expires, maybe expanding that a little bit. But let's talk about, Jared, some of the niches that you and I talk about.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So thanks for the introduction. It's good to see everyone here. So niching down, we specialize in a different data sets, with absentee being our flagship product. But even with our absentee data, you can open it up and niche down specifically. So we're getting a lot with the market normalizing, being able to flip the switch on the absentee owners and target ones that maybe have 3 properties or more, or 2 properties or more, and look at them to be buyers or whatnot. But within the actual data sets that we create, like the downsizers or the likely to sell, there's so much data behind those categories that you can really identify what your niche is in your market. And so what I mean like that is length of residence. You could even cap it at 15, knowing that, hey, after 15 years, studies show that, a lot of these people won't move, And so there's a lot of different segmentation within the groups that we're able to provide. So Antonio did say yesterday, being different is kind of an advantage, right? And so with us, we can really customize what we're providing, as we take it to the next level. So, someone like Ben that specializes in absentee with us, we can really dumb it down. I mean, we can really target down specifically with different criteria within the selection.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things I'll tell you guys is you leave here today, and I've talked about it at great lengths, and I almost feel like, man, have I beaten this enough, is talking about downsizers. There's 11,000 people looking to retire every day. When I looked at it, I'm like, holy shit, what a great opportunity to have Jared run a count in your market and say, okay, how many people are of the age of 65 that have a house that's 20% larger than the average house, that has the house with no mortgage on the house, that has been in that property, Nate, for more than 20 years? This is a prime candidate for you guys to prospect or to have an ISA call. This is the type of niche, this is the type of data that I'm talking about, so that you can identify great listing opportunities and minimize your competition.
It really become the expert in your market with these categories. Gus was telling me yesterday that he's having the most success with our downsizer data right now, calling it. And so that is the true test of 11,000 people retiring every day. It's not a monetary reason why nowadays. It's a life reason why these people have to move. And so it's becoming more normal, and you have to identify these people ahead of time and play that numbers game.
Yeah. So when you guys look ahead for 2023 at the Share Group, what are you guys doing with data sets or different access to data sets that maybe we can get excited about?
It's kind of nerdy, but we're co-oping with a couple of different larger data sources to ultimately enhance the phone quality, the email quality, that contact record. We do have some likely to buy categories. So on the downsizer, complete opposite is an upsizer. Talked to Mitch about that a little bit. A lot of these families by square footage, number of children, Ben can probably attest to that, that have to grow up, right? Have to upsize too. So there's a lot of different ways that we can slice and dice the data to kind of fit within your expertise, right? What you're comfortable with, and then the data, is always going to get better for us.
Questions for Jared on data, leads, what he can find, what they can't find. Any questions for Jared? I know a lot of you. How many of you are getting data from the Share Group right now? Let's just raise your hands. Okay, cool. About half of you guys.
Hey, I got a question.
Yes.
Right over here.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
What's happening?
Wrong.
Hey, anything going on in Canada with what you guys?
Oh, great question.
So Canadian data is restricted. We've created a likely to sell, not necessarily a lot off of the data that we have in the United States. But Sean and I have talked in the back about just even creating homeowner data with phones for our Canadian clients, and that has been somewhat successful. A longer turn time, but to build that relationship and start vetting in like more circle prospecting or neighborhood prospecting, we're able to get phone numbers for just homeowner information in Canada.
Well, and that's the key thing, right? So you can get homeowner data, right? Forget the niche for just a second. I know there's only 2 people in Canada, so everyone else is like, "What?" Okay. Yeah. But you can get. Yes, I know you're right. Let's go Canada. Yes. And so you can get data for those homeowners.
Absolutely.
Those homeowners.
It's just not as targeted or nichey, but we have the availability.
I saw another question. Yeah, go ahead, Mitch.
Yeah.
You can find out like if the primary bedroom is on the first floor or second.
Correct, and that's what I was going to say. Even with the downsizers,
That's
in
right.
some markets, we're able to identify that master bedroom being on the second floor. It depends on the county and how they report the data. So a lot of you guys might get data from your title company. You see that information. If it's reported at that county level, we're able to overlay that on the record.
Go ahead, over here.
So aside from contact information and how long they've lived in the home, what are some examples of other data that is there anything else that you get
No,
that
totally.
determines, like, so what does that look
That's a
like?
really good question. So transactional data is what we all get, right? That's compiled at the county level. It's public record. We also take demographic data. So we license data from like Axiom, one of the largest database compilers, and they have hundreds and hundreds of demographic elements based off of a response. So buying behavior, high interest credit cards, late pays, a lot of different lifestyles, mortgage rate, yeah, your interest rate, length of residence. We know
How
their
much they owe in their
age,
mortgage. I mean, all
income,
this
credit
stuff you-
score.
yeah.
I mean, it's there's an abundancy of information that we have available, and what we're trying to do and tie in now is, you have someone that's in a $300,000 mortgage, but they're hitting a high interest payday loan place, or they're hitting, they're kind of hanging on by a thread. So like we have like a pre foreclosure data that works really well in that regard, but that's based off of like demographic data that based off of their habits and what we see month to month based off of their actions versus and then we marry it to the transactional data too, if that makes sense.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
All right. I think one more. Do we have one more back there?
On the same tip as like if you can tell if there's a master bedroom on the first floor, I did buy a downsizer list and I love it, first of all. But a lot of them have the bathrooms on the first floor, which allows people to stay in their home a lot longer.
Right.
Can you figure out who, the houses that only have the bathroom on the second floor?
Yeah, no, totally. So depending on the county, we'd have to look and see. I know you're in Pennsylvania, but we would have to see where we get that public record from the original source, and then we can kind of dig in on what that looks like. But yeah, in some cases we can.
So here's what we can do. When you guys talk to Jared or his team with this specifically with the downsizer leads, who's going to start really working downsizers? Let me see how many people are. All right, so there's two of you. Cool. All right, so for the two of you, that they need is to get a true colonial in the public record. Right. And
exactly.
Because a first floor master isn't considered a colonial in the public record. It would be like a raised ranch. Right. So when you guys go to look at that would be something to look at.
Yep, totally. And we have a data dictionary that we don't necessarily send out. We try to keep it as basic as possible because it can get really data complicated. But if you do want to have a conversation in depth about some of the segmentation and some of the data that we can provide, give me a call. I mean, I say this 1,000 times over. We are the treasure map to the gold, but you guys are the ones that have to go on the hunt. So let us equip you with the best treasure map possible and work with you through that process. So,
Jared, appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man, appreciate
you. Yeah.
Thank you.
One question over here.
Yeah, go. One more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are the differentiating factors between share groups data and data that could be pulled out of, like, say, Remind?
Yeah, Remind is like MLS specific. So I think we talked on this in our Facebook group is the depth of the data. So because we're utilizing 12 different sources and kind of aggregating the data, Remind's just relying on an MLS information. So I think the depth of what the share group can provide from a number of phone numbers, email addresses seems to be a little bit different than everyone else. One other thing I wanted to say too, some of you guys are going back and pulling expireds that are like 2 years plus. If you want to add a phone number to that, you can call us and we can add our phone numbers, our cell phones to those. We can flag records sold in the last 24 months, and that way it can help you maybe segment some phone numbers too.
That is huge. What a great nugget. Did you guys just hear that? So download a list of expires over the last 3, 4, 5 years, get it to the share group, they can run it through their system and say, hey, here you go. Here's all those phone numbers.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank you.
Appreciate
it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's get you guys out of here. So listen, what to expect next. So like I promised yesterday, I'm going to take this group. There's a lot that we talked about, and you can only do so much in a day and a half. So what you guys can expect is a couple Zoom sessions over the next couple of weeks. I really want to spend a lot of time on the things that we talked about yesterday with Antonio when it comes to specifically our sales skills. And so all of you are going to be invited, all right? So keep an eye out for that. We'll get them recorded, but try to be there live. Okay, when I mean live on Zoom, right? So try your best. We're going to do this for you guys as a bonus for coming to Detroit for this event. So try to be there live. We're going to go really, really deep. One of the things specifically we're going to talk about is objections. We didn't have time. Antonio and I went back and forth, but we're going to really have a full session just on objections. Specifically how to handle every single one, because you only get a handful of those, yes? So once you know how to respond to those, you'll never have to worry about those again, Sean. You'll have exactly how to respond to every single one of those objections. Listen, I love you guys. Have a safe trip home. It's great to see all of you guys. We'll see you guys next year.